Okay. Yep. Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. We have Beth here from Quark Expeditions. She's going to be giving us an update and then questions that you have. One thing I would request is that you go ahead and put your lines on mute unless you have any questions, but feel free to jump in anytime. I just want to verify you guys can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. I will introduce myself and then stick to some of the high-level, really important details revolving around polar travel and specifically Quark Expeditions. So I appreciate your time. I know you all are very busy, and thank you for welcoming me into your morning. My name is Beth Mercier. I am the Regional Sales Director with Quark Expeditions. And I actually started out on the advisor side before hopping over to the supplier side, and I sold only small ship expedition cruising. And so I've been in the industry now for 14 years, and through that wonderful opportunity, I've been on over 10 expedition voyages, half of which have been to the polar regions. And so this is not only a beautiful place for me to discuss and encourage more people, but a passion of mine. So I really appreciate you learning more about this style of travel. Today I'm going to give a brief overview of who Quark Expeditions is, a little bit about our itineraries, some of the ships, as well as our key selling points of what really differentiates Quark Expeditions from some of the other many companies now adding polar travel to their list of destinations they visit. So I will start off with a little bit of, what is really attracting a lot of people to this style of travel. Now, the next slide is actually a video. I'm going to pass the video simply because it can be choppy on some of these platforms, but it's an incredible, beautiful video. So I'd love to follow up after the training because it's really worthwhile seeing. So a little bit about Quark Expeditions. We call ourselves the leader in polar adventures, not simply because that's a great tagline, but we actually have some really incredible firsts within the company. Such as the very first company to fully circumnavigate the entire continent of Antarctica, as well as the first company to bring tourists up to the North Pole. So exploration within the polar regions is in our DNA within the company. And, over the last almost 3 decades of exploring both the Arctic and Antarctica, there has certainly been a lot of encouragement to try other destinations. But I like to say that Quark Expeditions is an intentionally small company. We are the experts in the polar space. This is our true specialty, and we really don't want to add more destinations, warm water sailings. So we like being the experts. And I'm sure if you have already either been to the polar regions or sold the polar regions before, then you might be familiar with 2 organizations, the IATO down in Antarctica and IACO up in the Arctic. These are the 2 organizations that mandate all of the landing sites, safe wildlife viewing, how many passengers can go ashore at one time. This is extremely important in these beautiful, serene, pristine destinations. And Quark Expeditions is not only founding members, but currently sit on the board of directors for these particular organizations. And just 2 weeks past, the IATO conference was held in South Africa, and we were on the board there. And as you know, and I'm sure have read, there are a lot of new expedition vessels coming out in the market in the next couple of years. And so the biggest topic at the IATO conference was how we are going to actually be putting much stricter guidelines on all these passengers going down, because it is so important to us to protect these beautiful destinations. And so Quark Expeditions is not only heavily active in these initiatives, but we have sustainable tourism, giving back to the beautiful destinations that we are bringing new polar ambassadors to. So it's extremely important to us. The style of a Quark Expedition is going to be very unique. No 2 itineraries are identical. That's because each and every single day is going to be determined on wildlife, as well as ice conditions, photography opportunities, catching the light as it hits a beautiful iceberg. So we're going to customize the day. Yes, we know which landing sites we are going to be visiting throughout an itinerary, but let's say after you have some wonderful breakfast that morning and as we're getting ready for our first landing, we happen to see an amazing whale watching opportunity off the side of the ship. We are going to just interrupt the program. We're going to go get into our Zodiac boats and we're going to capture that beautiful experience. So it really is an expedition. It's an adventure, and you're sailing with true experts in their individual fields. We, of course, will keep all of the safe wildlife viewing guidelines and teach everyone how to approach certain wildlife safely, but of course, to be able to get that wonderful photo, as so many people like to do. And we also are really well known for our variety of activities that we offer in the polar region. So I have a little bit more information about that in just a moment. The photography program on board the ship and off the ship is of an extremely high level. We often bring on 1 to 2 professional photographers on every single departure. And just recently, I sailed with one of our photographers. Her name is Acacia Johnson, and Time Magazine actually released on International Women's Day. In fact, she's one of the top female influential photographers. And so just having this variety of expertise on board is incredible. We took a look at our client demographics over the last 30 years, and generally these are the characteristics of the types of clients that book with Quark Expeditions. We get a lot of checklister clients. This is someone who wants to check off their 7th continent. Maybe they want to see the Northern Lights, and they want to sail with a polar expert who can guarantee this checklist item. We, of course, get a lot of learners simply because of our wide range of experts on board. Quark Expeditions actually has the highest passenger to expert ratio. We often hear with cruise lines the crew to passenger ratio. Well, this is actually true polar expert. So for every 7 passengers, there's 1 polar expert. That can be a marine biologist, a historian, a glaciologist, photographer. So you get such a well-rounded education program on board with Quark Expeditions. We, of course, get a lot of escapists simply because our itineraries will sail all the way up from the North Pole down to crossing the Antarctic Circle. So our itineraries, some of them do have a cultural component, but really it is about you, your fellow passengers, and nature. So really getting that breath of fresh air, getting able to escape your regular day-to-day. And lastly, the adventurers, because simply anybody going to the polar regions, I'm sure, is pretty adventurous. But we have such a wide range from soft adventure all the way up to stand-up paddleboarding in Antarctica. So you can really customize your experience. And I put together a little bit of the demographics. I won't go into this slide too heavily, but this essentially says polar travel is on the rise. It's extremely popular. We've seen a year-over-year increase of 17% of travelers wishing to go to Antarctica, 16% who want that excursion style of program. And your average booking per person to Antarctica is roughly 11,000 to 12,000 USD per person. So this is really a nice style of travel for travel advisors to get into in terms of making that higher commission potential. Forgive my horrible PowerPoint skills, but I wanted to at least include how clients come to book polar travel. Because often I get a lot of feedback from advisors like, I know your company, I'd love to sell your company, but I don't have any clients in mind. And so generally, this is how they come to find us. They start off with maybe being a crossover cruiser. They've done the large ship cruise experience. They're looking for something a little bit more intimate on a smaller vessel. A lot of clients who have booked an African safari would be the ideal client for us. Or maybe they have some specific interests. This generally introduces them to the world of expedition and adventure cruising by starting off with a quote-unquote approachable destination, like the Galapagos Islands, Alaska's Insight Passage. They get a feel for the style of travel, and this really gives them the confidence to book a polar travel itinerary. So if you have anyone who just got back from the Galapagos Islands, someone who you know loves to go on safari, this would be an ideal client to introduce to polar travel. Now I'll go into a little bit of the itinerary, starting with Antarctica. If you are unfamiliar with Antarctica, the southernmost continental voyage that anyone can take, there are two main access points to the continent, via South America and via New Zealand. All of Quark Expeditions itineraries will leave out of South America simply because it is much easier, much more accessible. The crossing from the southern tip of Argentina to the continent is roughly 36 hours. Alternately, if someone were to go to Antarctica from New Zealand, it's a 7-day crossing each way. It's a lot longer, a lot more difficult. This is why all of our itineraries will start in either Ushuaia, Argentina, or Punta Arenas, Chile. You'll see on this screen there are so many great options to choose from. I like to say if someone wants to go to Antarctica, Quark Expeditions has an itinerary for them because there are so many options to choose from. You can sail down to the continent out of Ushuaia, Argentina. This is a direct access. This is roughly around 10 to 12 days. Or someone who wants to really do their research, they want to get the fullest experience, they often will add in the sub-Antarctic islands like the Falklands and South Georgia. However, as you may know, there's plenty of people who want to go to Antarctica but are a little nervous about that Drake Passage crossing. And so this is why Quark Expeditions offers the Fly Cruise program. So you can eliminate the Drake Passage crossing altogether by boarding one of our charter aircraft from Punta Arenas and flying down to a little island called King George Island. The ship will already be waiting for you. You simply embark, have the same amount of time on the continent, and then you fly back for a total of a 7-night, 8-day itinerary. The experience in Antarctica is going to be absolutely stunning. And in fact, I describe it as the closest thing to visiting another planet. You cannot describe the experience in Antarctica to any other destination. That's simply because everything is magnified. You think you've seen the Swiss Alps or the Rocky Mountains, you need to multiply those and you begin to get a perspective of what it's like in Antarctica. So each day you will have the opportunity to disembark the vessel via our Zodiac boats. You see everyone is wearing their cork yellow parkas. That is a complimentary gift for all passengers to keep. It's actually 2 jackets in one. You have an inner warm layer and then an outer protective layer. And you can actually unzip your jacket, turn it inside out, and it becomes a backpack. So it's a multifunctional jacket, as well as the rubber boots for all of the landings. Those are included in the cabin price. I think many more people are adding Antarctica onto their radar because they hear from their friends, their coworkers, their travel advisor, what a unique and amazing experience is. And honestly, I hate to say this, but they want to see it before it changes. And so they want to go with a company they can trust to get them there safely, who are the experts in that space, and that's how they come to find Quark Expeditions. The austral summer in Antarctica goes from November through March. Each year, the pack ice that surrounds the continent will naturally recede around October. So the very first time ships can access the continent is the beginning of November through the end of March. Later on, if you have any questions on the changes of the season, because there are 3 distinct changes, early, mid, and late, feel free to contact me. I can walk you through those changes. Here are some of the itineraries. I start with this particular one simply because it is the most popular option booked. We have the most departure dates. This itinerary is offered on all of our ships in the Antarctica. The Antarctic Explorer, discovering the 7th continent. Passengers will begin in Buenos Aires, fly down to Ushuaia, Argentina, embark the ship, set sail, have 5 days on the continent, and then sail back for a total of a 10 to 12-day itinerary. We offer this particular option as well as just adding a few more days to cross the Antarctic Circle. Now, the circle crossing itineraries, I'll be very frank with you, do not have a tremendous difference. But going back to those checklister clients, I know a lot of people who have a very specific goal of crossing both the Arctic and the Antarctic Circle. And this provides just more opportunity for exploring the continent, a few more days, and to get that, I did it, I checked it off. Here are the options for the fly cruises. Instead of Buenos Aires, your clients will fly into Santiago, Chile. I recommend spending a night before they head down to Punta Arenas. Once they arrive Punta Arenas, we have one included hotel night on the pre-embarkation. The following day, the day that they will actually fly out, please note this is not a scheduled departure. This is not a United flight to Vegas where you can just hop on board and it's super easy. We have to understand that we are not flying into an airport. We're flying into an Army base. The wind conditions have to be perfect. The runway has to be de-iced. And so this means there could be a little bit of waiting. And usually we see an average of a couple-hour delay. It's a lower probability, but it could extend into the following day. So I always set client expectations. That is, they're really flexible and understanding that it could be a little bit of delay, just ensuring that everyone is safe. Then this is going to be a lot better of an experience. Because once you get to King George Island, you're down in Antarctica and you can have an amazing experience. Lastly, I want to talk about the island exploration. Generally, when someone goes to Antarctica, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And certainly there are the clients that have the resources and the time to see and do everything. And this is the itinerary I recommend for them, the Explorers and Kings. This is going to touch the continent, the Falkland Islands, and South Georgia. And if you're unfamiliar with those destinations, South Georgia is the key. This is one of the most unique and beautiful destinations in the entire world. We often see the documentary March of the Penguins about the emperors, the largest penguin species, but those are a little hard to find. Alternately, the king penguins, the second largest species of penguins, is incredible to see on South Georgia Island. Hundreds of thousands of king penguins. So you have this opportunity or adding a few more days to cross that Antarctic Circle. Now, from the Southern Hemisphere, I'd like to go up to the Northern Hemisphere. And I know the Arctic is not as sexy of a destination as Antarctica, but I think more and more people are adding this onto their radar because they realize from North America it's actually really easy to get to the Arctic. This is a little bit of a route map. It's kind of hard to view, but I'll walk you through it. Greenland is one of my favorite destinations in the Arctic, and all of our Greenland itineraries will start and end in Reykjavik, Iceland. So it's a really easy flight over to Reykjavik, and from there we take over and the rest of the itinerary is all packaged together. Additionally, one of the other really popular voyages is in Spitsbergen. This is the best place in the entire world to see beautiful polar bears in their natural setting. We, of course, as the leader in polar adventures, we will also sail up to the geographic North Pole, 90 degrees north. We have added the Russian Arctic as well as Arctic Canada to our itinerary list. This is in the Northern Hemisphere, so operated in our summertime, June through the end of September. And so there's some variations of the seasonality, which you see on the screen. And starting with Spitsbergen, a lot of people are trying Spitsbergen because it's part of the country of Norway. You can combine with the coastal fjords of Norway. So flying into Oslo, and then we take over from there. We'll fly you up to a little town called Longyearbyen. You hop on board, and then you see the beautiful Arctic tundra at its finest. In addition to polar bears, you're seeing caribou, Arctic foxes, puffins, walruses. So there's an amazing amount of wildlife you can see in Spitsbergen. We, of course, will keep all of the safe precautions when seeing the polar bears. If there's one on land, we will not make a landing. Instead, we will get into our small Zodiac boats and carefully navigate around the polar bears, respecting the polar bears and keeping passengers safe. But it is such a unique, incredible experience to see these polar bears in their natural setting. One of my favorite itineraries is our introduction to Spitsbergen, the fjords, glaciers, and wildlife of Svalbard. We have this departure each June, so coming up even in the next few weeks, as well as a year ahead. It's a nice 8-night, 9-day, and some select departures actually have the round-trip charter flights included in the price. So this is a lovely itinerary that I often recommend to clients. Now, for any of you who have those clients that said, I've been everywhere, I've done all the tourist destinations, I'm looking for something really exclusive, really unique, I often recommend the North Pole. Yes, this is a rustic looking working class icebreaker vessel, but this incredible ship is built to be at sea for months at a time. Even though this itinerary is only 16 nights, it has a pool, a basketball court, a track, incredible dining options, but this is an expedition. You are on a working class icebreaker up to the North Pole, seeing some of the most remote areas of the world. So this is for someone who wants that really milestone trip. We've had a wedding at the North Pole, we've had birthdays, anniversaries. Just to be able to say that you've stood at the top of the world is a really unique experience. Lastly, in terms of our Arctic itineraries that I wanted to share with you, my favorite destination, Greenland. There's 3 different areas of Greenland: the western coast, the southern tip, and the eastern coast. Western is great for beautiful icebergs and cultural visits, going to Inuit communities. The southern tip that you see at the bottom there, Kokotok, and don't worry, there's not a quiz how to pronounce Greenlandic names. This is where the famous Eric the Red, the initial Viking, was banished from Iceland, and this is where he made his settlement. And so there is actual Viking ruins that have still been preserved at the southern tip of Greenland. So anyone who's a history buff would love that itinerary. And lastly, on the eastern side, in the Scoresbysund fjord system. This is the longest and deepest fjord system in the world. For any of you escapists out there that want stunning natural beauty, we're talking Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, the most epic landscapes you can imagine, this is what I would recommend for you. And the time of year that we visit eastern Greenland is September, and we do that specifically because you can get all the beautiful activities and wildlife viewing in the daytime, and then you can see northern lights in the evening. So this is one of my favorite destinations. So we offer these itineraries August through the very beginning of October. And as I mentioned, the amazing array of activities, kayaking, hiking, a couple visits to beautiful Inuit communities, and I threw in a few of my photos from one of my recent trips where it was absolutely stunning. The staff on board said, Beth, please don't sell this as a wildlife-focused itinerary. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway, because we saw 13 polar bears, and I loved it. It was so amazing. I had a great experience, and then we had to, of course, capture those amazing northern lights that was on 4 nights of the itinerary. So one of the ones I wanted to mention, I am sure you've heard, Quark Expeditions has come out with a beautiful all-suite, all-balcony luxury vessel. I have a few photos in just a moment. But we have this particular itinerary called Under the Northern Lights, exploring Iceland and Greenland next September 2020 on this beautiful new ship. And this is one of the ones that I've really been highlighting because I really want to go on, and I think this would be such an amazing experience for anyone who has those northern lights on their travel wish list. So here are some of the fleet photos. We have everything ranging from your working class icebreakers to a nice premium, comfortable, budget-focused itinerary to beautiful all-suite, all-balcony luxury options. So if there is a client in your list that wants to go to the polar regions, we have an option for them. Anything ranging from high-class service, incredible dining options, to solo programs, reduced single supplements, solo shares. We really have everything under the sun if it comes to polar travel. So here's a few photos of our newest vessel, the World Explorer. This is an introductory suite category. And all cabins have either a Juliet or a full walkout balcony, so this is a lovely addition. And then very exciting, in fact, you are actually some of the very few that have, I'm even announcing this to you. Quark Expeditions is currently building a beautiful new vessel. In fact, I threw in the name and then my director of marketing said, no, Beth, you can't do it yet. We haven't done the official press release. I'm so sorry, but I will follow up and I will announce the name as soon as I can. This beautiful ship, if you think maybe the scenic vessel, this is the style of the program of this particular ship. She is going to be one of the most technologically advanced sustainable green vessels. This is going to have 2 helicopter pads. This is going to have a rapid Zodiac deployment, meaning within minutes you can be on the ship and exploring. You're not sitting waiting around with your life jacket on for 20, 30 minutes. This is just going to have beautiful suites, a sleek design. We're so excited to have this ship join us. Regardless of the ship you choose, the onboard experience is going to be relaxed but really comfortable. You're going to have chef-prepared meals, wonderful dining options. Alcohol is included with dinner, as are gratuity. If we have the opportunity to combine the destination with the dining experience, we absolutely will. So a barbecue out on the sun deck where you have the beautiful backdrop of your polar destination. And then, of course, some onboard amenities, spa services, sauna, fitness facilities. We do yoga out on the sun deck. All of our ships have polar boutiques, and every Virtuoso guest gets $250 per person to spend at the Polar Boutique, which isn't just gear. They can book their spa services, or what they can also do is book one of the adventure options. So I often get asked, what's included, what's at an additional cost? What you see on this screen, all of our landings, all of your Zodiac cruises, if you dare do the polar plunge, photography and lectures, snowshoeing, all of those are included in the cabin price. We have select adventure options that will be at an additional cost. And if you don't participate in the adventure options, you're not missing out. It's not simply you have to wait on board while everyone who did sign up. You're out exploring. These are really just enhancements to the itinerary, and you can put your Virtuoso amenity towards one of the adventure options should you choose. If you would like additional tools or information, we have a partner resource center, which is simply quarkexpeditions.com/agents. Here you can find actual white labeled material, so your call to action, your logo. This is trip dossiers, destination guides, beautiful images and videos. When I sold a lot of polar travel as an advisor, I often noticed this really shortened the lead to booking time when I coupled it with all of this beautiful imagery. If someone can see themselves in the destination, they get the confidence to book it a lot quicker. So please feel free to rely on me as well if you need anything. When you do give us a call for availability and pricing, you're connected with a polar travel advisor. This isn't just a reservation agent. These are uniquely qualified individuals who have been on this ship, who have experienced the itineraries, who can help with any question. What do we do on day 3? What's the square footage of that cabin? They're so experienced to answer your questions. And last but not least, I am here to help in any way. This is my contact information on the screen. If anyone is attending Virtuoso Travel Week this year, we are going to have a really special event in Aria, one of the penthouses. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, need additional information. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Beth. Do any of you on the phone have any questions? Doesn't sound like it. All right, great. Well, you've got Beth's contact information. We've also recorded this webinar, so we will have that posted as well. And then if you do have any questions come up in the future, you can always contact Beth.
Well,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Stop the recording.